The snow fell so thick that afternoon in the Colorado mountains that Amelia Sutherland could barely see her own hands as she stumbled through the drifts, her thin dress soaked through, and her lips turning blue from the bitter cold of December 1882. She had watched the wagon roll away 10 minutes earlier, her stepfather's hard eyes the last thing she saw before the white curtain of the blizzard swallowed them whole, leaving her alone on a mountain pass with nothing but the clothes on her back and the crushing realization that her family had abandoned her to die. Her mother had not even looked back. At 19 years old, Amelia had thought she understood cruelty, having endured 3 years of her stepfather's harsh words and her mother's willful blindness, but this was something else entirely. This was murder dressed up as convenience. She sank to her knees in a snowdrift, her fingers so numb she could not feel them anymore. The wind screamed through the pines like a living thing, and Amelia found herself thinking about her real father, dead these 4 years from pneumonia. He would never have allowed this. He would have protected her. But he was gone, and her mother had remarried within 6 months to a man named Richard, who saw Amelia as nothing more than an extra mouth to feed, and a reminder that his new wife had loved another man first. When Amelia had refused the advances of Richard's business partner, a man 30 years her senior who smelled of whiskey and tobacco, Richard had declared her ungrateful and willful. This morning, he had told her they were going to visit relatives in Denver. Instead, they had driven her up into the mountains and left her to freeze. The cold was making her drowsy now, and Amelia knew that was dangerous. She had heard stories of people who fell asleep in the snow and never woke up. She tried to stand, but her legs would not cooperate. The world was turning gray at the edges, the white snow and dark trees blending into a watercolor wash. She thought she heard something, the sound of hoofbeats maybe, but that seemed impossible. No one traveled through mountain passes during blizzards. She was hallucinating, her mind creating false hope in its final moments. But the hoofbeats grew louder, and then a voice, deep and urgent, cut through the wind. "Jesus Christ, there's someone out here." Strong arms lifted her from the snow, and Amelia tried to open her eyes, but they felt frozen shut. She was being moved, carried, wrapped in something warm that smelled of leather and horses and wood smoke. She wanted to speak, to thank whoever had found her, but her jaw would not work properly. "Hold on, miss. Just hold on. I have got you now. You are mine to look after, you hear me? I am not letting you die out here." The voice was younger than she expected, with a gentle quality that seemed at odds with the strength of the arms carrying her. She felt herself being lifted onto a horse, felt a solid body settle behind her, felt arms circle around her to hold her steady as the horse began to move. Whoever had found her was sharing his body heat with her, pressing close to keep the wind off her back. "My name is Grant Irving," the voice said close to her ear. "I am taking you to my cabin. It is not far. You are going to be all right, I promise you that." Amelia managed the smallest nod, and then the gray at the edges of her vision rushed in and she knew nothing more. When consciousness returned, it came in fragments. Warmth. Blessed, beautiful warmth. The crackle of a fire. Something soft beneath her. A hand pressing a cup to her lips and a voice encouraging her to drink. She managed a few sips of something hot and sweet before exhaustion pulled her under again. The next time she woke, the room was dimmer, lit only by firelight. Amelia blinked slowly, her eyes adjusting, and found herself in a small but well-built cabin. She was lying on a narrow bed covered in thick quilts and furs, and she was wearing a nightshirt that was far too large for her. Someone had undressed her and put her in dry clothes. The thought should have alarmed her, but whoever had done it had been respectful. She could feel bandages on her fingers and toes where frostbite had likely set in. "You are awake." Amelia turned her head toward the voice and saw a man rising from a chair near the fire. He was young, perhaps 23 or 24, with dark hair that fell past his collar and eyes that were a startling shade of green even in the firelight. He had a strong jaw shadowed with stubble and a lean, rangy build that spoke of a life spent outdoors. He moved toward her with the easy grace of someone comfortable in his own skin. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice as gentle as she remembered from the snow. "Cold," Amelia whispered, though in truth she was warmer than she had been in hours. "And confused." "I imagined so." He pulled the chair closer to the bed and sat down, his expression serious. "I found you in the snow about 4 hours ago. You were nearly frozen to death. I brought you back here and got you warm. Your fingers and toes had some frostbite, but I do not think you will lose anything. Time will tell." "You undressed me," Amelia said, not quite a question. "I had to," Grant said simply. "Your clothes were soaked through. If I had left you in them, you would have died. I was respectful, I give you my word. I just wanted to save your life." There was such earnestness in his face that Amelia found herself believing him without question. "Thank you," she said. "You saved my life. What were you doing out there?" Grant asked. "The nearest town is 15 miles from here. No one travels through the pass in weather like this." Amelia felt tears prick her eyes and she looked away, ashamed. "My family left me there," she said quietly. "My stepfather, he wanted to be rid of me." She heard Grant's sharp intake of breath. "He left you there to die, on purpose?" "Yes." There was a long silence, and when Amelia dared to glance at Grant, she saw a muscle ticking in his jaw and his hands clenched into fists on his knees. "That is murder," he said flatly. "That is nothing less than murder." "There is nothing to be done about it," Amelia said, her voice hollow. "They are gone. I have no one." "You have me," Grant said, and the words came out with such certainty that Amelia's eyes widened. "I mean, you are not alone anymore. I found you, and I am not sending you back out into the cold. You are mine to look after now. That is how I see it." "You do not even know me," Amelia whispered. "I know that you deserve better than being left to die in the snow," Grant said fiercely. "I know that anyone who would do such a thing is not worthy of being called family. And I know that I am not the kind of man who walks away from someone in need." Amelia felt the tears spill over then, hot and fast, and she could not stop them. All the fear and pain and betrayal of the day came pouring out, and she wept into the quilts while Grant sat quietly beside her. After a moment, she felt his hand, large and warm and calloused, rest gently on her shoulder. "It is all right," he said softly. "Cry if you need to. You have earned it." When the tears finally subsided, Amelia felt emptied out but somehow lighter. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of the nightshirt and looked at Grant. "I am sorry," she said. "You must think I am terribly weak." "I think you are incredibly strong," Grant said. "You survived something that would have killed most people. That takes strength." "What happens now?" Amelia asked, suddenly afraid. "I have nowhere to go, no money, nothing." "You stay here," Grant said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "At least until you are healed and the weather clears. After that, well, we will figure it out, but you are safe here. I give you my word on that." "Why are you doing this?" Amelia asked. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Grant was quiet for a moment, his green eyes thoughtful. "My mother died when I was 12, he said finally. "She got sick with fever and there was no one around to help. We lived way out in the hills, just her and me. My father had died in the war before I was born. I could not save her. I had to watch her suffer and die, and there was nothing I could do." He met Amelia's eyes. "I swore after she died that if I ever had the chance to help someone, really help someone, I would take it. So when I saw you in that snow today, there was no question in my mind. I was going to save you or die trying." I am so sorry about your mother, Amelia said softly. It was a long time ago, Grant said. I have made my peace with it mostly, but it made me who I am, I suppose. He stood up, moving back toward the fire. Are you hungry? I have stew. It is not fancy, but it is hot and filling. I am starving, Amelia admitted. Grant ladled stew into a bowl and brought it to her along with a spoon and a thick slice of bread. Amelia sat up slowly, her body aching in a dozen places, and accepted the food gratefully. The stew was simple, just venison and vegetables, but it was the best thing she had ever tasted. Grant watched her eat with a small smile on his face. When did you last have a proper meal? He asked. Yesterday morning, Amelia said. They did not feed me before they left me. Grant's expression darkened again, but he said nothing, just waited until she had finished eating and then took the bowl away. You should rest more, he said. Your body has been through a terrible shock. It needs time to heal. Where will you sleep? Amelia asked, suddenly aware that the cabin had only one bed. I will make a bedroll by the fire, Grant said. I have done it plenty of times. Do not worry about me. I cannot take your bed, Amelia protested. You are not taking it, I am giving it, Grant said firmly. And you are injured and recovering, so you need it more than I do. Please do not argue with me on this. Amelia wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was creeping back over her and the bed was so warm and comfortable. Thank you, she said instead. You are welcome, Grant said. Now sleep. Everything will look better in the morning. Amelia closed her eyes and let herself sink into sleep, feeling safer than she had in years. Over the next 3 days, the blizzard raged outside the cabin, keeping them trapped inside with only each other for company. Amelia's strength returned slowly, though her fingers and toes remained sore and tender. Grant proved to be an attentive caretaker, checking her bandages twice a day and making sure she ate and drank plenty. He was also surprisingly easy to talk to. On the second day, as they sat by the fire eating lunch, Amelia asked him about his life. Grant told her that he was 24 years old and had been living in these mountains for 3 years, working as a trapper and occasional guide for hunting parties. He had a small string of horses and made enough money to keep himself fed and clothed. He liked the solitude, he said, though sometimes it got lonely. You ever go into town? Amelia asked. Every few months, Grant said, to sell furs and buy supplies. The nearest town is Breckenridge, about 15 miles south. It is a mining town mostly, not much to speak of, but it has a general store and a saloon and a church. You have friends there? A few, Grant said. There is a bartender named Tom who is a decent fellow, and a widow named Mrs. Chen who runs a boarding house. She is always trying to feed me, says I am too skinny. He grinned. What about you? Tell me about your life before today. Amelia hesitated, then decided that Grant had earned her honesty. She told him about growing up in Kansas, about her father who had been a school teacher and her mother who had made beautiful quilts. She told him about her father's death and her mother's quick remarriage to Richard, a banker's clerk who drank too much and had a mean streak. She told him about the gradual deterioration of her home life, the way Richard had chipped away at her mother's love until there was nothing left for Amelia. He wanted me to marry his friend, a man named Walter, Amelia said. Walter was 50 years old and had already buried 2 wives. He looked at me like I was a piece of property. When I refused, Richard was furious. He said I was ungrateful and disobedient. He started talking about how expensive it was to feed me, how I was a burden. She swallowed hard. I knew he wanted to be rid of me, but I never thought he would do something like this. Your mother let him, Grant said quietly. That is almost worse. She loves him more than she ever loved me, Amelia said. I have accepted that. Their failure to love you properly says nothing about your worth, Grant said, his green eyes fierce. "You understand that, right? You are not a burden. You are not worthless. They are the ones who failed, not you." Amelia felt something crack open in her chest, some hard shell of pain that she had been carrying for years. "Thank you," she whispered. Grant reached over and took her hand, his touch gentle. "You are mine to look after now," he said, "and I take that responsibility seriously. No one is going to hurt you again, not while I am around." Amelia felt her heart flutter in a way that had nothing to do with her recent brush with death. Grant Irving was unlike any man she had ever met. He was kind without being weak, strong without being cruel. He looked at her like she mattered, like she was worth saving. And he was handsome, she could not deny that. When he smiled, which was often, his whole face lit up. On the third day, the blizzard finally broke. The snow stopped falling and the wind died down, leaving the world outside wrapped in a thick blanket of white. Grant bundled up and went outside to check on his horses, who were sheltered in a small barn behind the cabin. He returned an hour later, stamping snow off his boots. "Horses are fine," he reported. "I fed them and checked them over. Everything looks good." "When can I leave?" Amelia asked, and was surprised to find that she did not really want to know the answer. Grant looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You can leave whenever you want," he said carefully. "But I hope you will not yet. You are still healing and it is the middle of winter. There is nowhere safe for you to go." "I cannot stay here forever," Amelia said. "I cannot impose on your hospitality indefinitely." "It is not an imposition," Grant said. He sat down across from her, his elbows on his knees. "Amelia, I am going to be honest with you. I like having you here. I like talking to you. I like seeing you across the table at meals. This cabin has felt more like a home in the last 3 days than it has in 3 years. He paused. "I know we barely know each other. I know this is strange, but I would like you to stay, at least through the winter. In the spring, if you want to leave, I will take you wherever you want to go. But please do not go out into the cold again. Stay here, stay with me." Amelia's heart was pounding. "Grant, I do not want to be a charity case. I do not want to be someone you feel obligated to care for." "You are not a charity case," Grant said firmly. "And yes, I feel obligated to care for you, but not because I pity you. Because I want to. Because when I found you in that snow, something in me said this is important, this person is important. I have never believed in fate or destiny or any of that, but finding you felt like it meant something." "I feel the same way," Amelia admitted. "These past 3 days I have felt happier than I have in years. You make me feel safe." "Then stay," Grant said. "Stay with me, be mine." The words hung in the air between them, charged with meaning. Amelia knew that what he was offering was not just shelter but something deeper, something that scared and thrilled her in equal measure. "Yes," she said, "I will stay." Grant's face broke into a wide smile and he reached across the table to take both her hands in his. "You will not regret it," he said. "I promise you that." As winter deepened, Amelia and Grant fell into an easy rhythm. She helped with the cooking and mending while he tended the horses and checked his trap lines. The cabin was small but cozy, and they learned to move around each other with practiced ease. Grant proved to be good company, with a dry sense of humor and a gift for storytelling. In the evenings, they would sit by the fire and he would tell her stories about his life in the mountains, about the bears and mountain lions he had encountered, about the time he had gotten lost in a snowstorm and had to spend 3 days in a cave. Amelia found herself laughing more than she had in years. She also found herself watching Grant when he did not notice, admiring the way he moved, the strength in his hands, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. She was falling in love with him. She realized one night as she lay in bed listening to him breathe in his bedroll by the fire. It was a terrifying and exhilarating realization. Grant seemed to be feeling something similar. Amelia would catch him looking at her with an expression that made her stomach flutter. He found excuses to touch her, a hand on her shoulder, fingers brushing hers when he passed her something. The tension between them grew like a living thing, sweet and charged. It was late January when everything changed. They had been snowed in again for 2 days, and the cabin was feeling smaller than usual. Amelia was trying to read a book by candlelight when Grant suddenly spoke. "Amelia, can I ask you something?" She looked up. Grant was standing by the fire, his posture tense. "Of course," she said. "You ever think about leaving? In the spring, I mean, do you think about going somewhere else?" Amelia set the book down. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but mostly I think about staying." "What makes you think about staying?" Grant asked, his green eyes intense. "You," Amelia said simply. "You make me think about staying." Grant crossed the room in 3 long strides and knelt beside her chair. "I need to tell you something," he said. "I've been trying to hold back because I did not want to scare you or make you feel obligated, but I cannot keep it in anymore. I am falling in love with you, Amelia. Maybe I have been since the moment I found you in the snow. I know it is too fast. I know it is crazy, but it is the truth." Amelia felt tears spring to her eyes, but these were happy tears. "It is not too fast," she said. "And it is not crazy. I am falling in love with you too, Grant. I think I have been for weeks." Grant made a sound that was half laugh, half sob, and then he was pulling her out of the chair and into his arms. He held her tightly, his face buried in her hair. "You are mine," he whispered. "You are mine and I am yours, and I am never letting you go." "I do not want you to let me go," Amelia said, pulling back just enough to look at him. "I want to stay here with you. I want to build a life with you." Grant cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice rough. "Please," Amelia whispered. Grant kissed her slowly, sweetly, like she was something precious and breakable. Amelia melted into him, her arms winding around his neck. The kiss deepened, became more urgent, and Amelia felt desire unfurl in her belly, hot and insistent. Grant groaned against her mouth and pulled her even closer until there was no space between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Grant rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said. "I know it is too soon, I know we should wait, but I do not want to. Marry me, Amelia. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life making you happy." "Yes," Amelia said without hesitation. "Yes, I will marry you." Grant kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. He lifted her into his arms and carried her to the bed, laying her down gently. "Are you sure?" he asked, hovering over her. "We can wait until we are married properly. I do not want to rush you." "I am sure," Amelia said, reaching up to pull him down to her. "I want this. I want you. I have never been more sure of anything in my life." What followed was tender and passionate, Grant treating her like she was made of glass, murmuring endearments against her skin. Amelia had never been with a man before, and Grant was patient, guiding her through it with gentle hands and whispered words. When it was over, they lay tangled together under the quilts, both flushed and happy. "I love you," Grant said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I love you so much it scares me." "I love you too," Amelia said, snuggling closer to him. "And I am not scared at all. This feels right. You feel right." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other. And when Amelia woke in the morning to find Grant watching her with soft eyes, she felt like the luckiest woman alive. 2 weeks later, when the weather cleared enough for travel, Grant took Amelia into Breckenridge. The town was small and rough around the edges, full of miners and drifters, but it had a church with a kind-faced preacher who agreed to marry them. They exchanged vows in the small wooden church with Mrs. Chen and the bartender Tom as witnesses. Grant wearing his best shirt and Amelia wearing a simple blue dress that Mrs. Chen had loaned her, when the preacher pronounced them husband and wife. Grant kissed her so enthusiastically that Tom laughed and Mrs. Chen dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Afterward, Mrs. Chen insisted on hosting a small celebration at her boarding house, complete with cake and coffee. She also pulled Amelia aside and pressed a package into her hands. "A wedding gift," Mrs. Chen said. "Some practical things for setting up house. And this." She pressed a small silver locket into Amelia's hand. "It was my daughter's. She died of fever 5 years ago. I want you to have it." "I cannot take this," Amelia protested, her eyes filling with tears. "You can and you will," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "You are a good girl and Grant is a good man. You deserve happiness. Take the locket and think of me sometimes." Amelia hugged the older woman tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." When they returned to the cabin that evening, Grant carried Amelia over the threshold like a proper groom, both of them laughing. That night, they made love as husband and wife, and Amelia felt like her life had finally, truly begun. The rest of the winter passed in a blur of happiness. Amelia had never known that marriage could be like this, easy and joyful and full of laughter. Grant was an attentive husband, always making sure she was warm and fed and happy. He surprised her with little gifts, a new book he had ordered from the general store, a pretty hair comb, wildflowers he had somehow found in the snow. He told her he loved her a dozen times a day, and every time it made her heart skip a beat. In March, as the snow began to melt and the first signs of spring appeared, Grant sat Amelia down for a serious conversation. "I have been thinking about our future," he said. "This cabin is fine for me alone, but it is small for 2 people, and if we are going to have children someday, we will need more space." "What are you suggesting?" Amelia asked. "I have some money saved up," Grant said. "Not a lot, but enough to buy some land and start building a proper house. There is a valley about 5 miles from here, good grazing land, close to water. I have always thought it would be a perfect place to build a ranch, raise some cattle, maybe some horses, make a real life." "That sounds wonderful," Amelia said, her heart swelling. "But are you sure? You have been living alone for so long. Are you ready to give up trapping and settle down?" "I have never been more ready for anything," Grant said, pulling her into his lap. "I was alone because I had not found the right person to be with, but now I have you and everything is different. I want to build something with you, Amelia. I want to build a home and a family and a future. I want to grow old with you." "Then let us do it," Amelia said, kissing him soundly. "Let us build our ranch and our life together." Over the next several months, they worked tirelessly to make their dream a reality. Grant filed a claim on the land in the valley, and they began the process of building a house. It was hard work, the hardest Amelia had ever done, but it was also satisfying. She helped Grant cut timber and haul stones for the foundation. She learned to swing a hammer and saw boards. Her hands developed calluses and her arms grew strong. By late summer, they had the basic structure of the house complete, a sturdy 2-story building with 4 rooms downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs. It was not fancy, but it was solid and well built, and it was theirs. They moved in on a hot August day, both of them exhausted but triumphant. "Welcome home, Mrs. Irving," Grant said, sweeping Amelia into his arms and carrying her through the front door. "It is perfect," Amelia said, looking around at the bare rooms that would soon be filled with furniture and memories. "Absolutely perfect." They spent the rest of August and September finishing the inside of the house and preparing for winter. Grant bought 6 head of cattle from a rancher in Breckenridge and built a small barn to shelter them. Amelia planted a kitchen garden and learned to preserve vegetables for the winter. They worked side by side from dawn to dusk, and at night they fell into bed exhausted but content. In October, Amelia realized that she was pregnant. She had missed her monthly courses twice and her breasts were tender. When she told Grant, he picked her up and spun her around, whooping with joy. "We are going to be parents," he said, his eyes shining. "You are going to be a mother and I am going to be a father. This is the best news I have ever had." "Are you sure?" Amelia asked, suddenly nervous. "I know this is fast. We have only been married for 8 months. Maybe we should have waited." "This is perfect timing," Grant said firmly. "And even if it was not, it would not matter. I want this baby. I want you. I want all of it." Amelia's pregnancy was mostly easy, though she tired more quickly than usual and certain smells made her nauseous. Grant was impossibly attentive, insisting that she rest frequently and take on no heavy work. He did all the hard labor himself, often working from dawn until well past dark to make sure everything was done. In late December, almost exactly 1 year after Grant had found her in the snow, Amelia went into labor. It was a long and difficult process, and there were moments when Grant was terrified that he was going to lose her. But Mrs. Chen, who had come to stay with them for the last month of the pregnancy, proved to be a skilled midwife. She coached Amelia through the contractions and delivery, and just after dawn, their son was born. Grant held his son for the first time with tears streaming down his face. "He is perfect," he whispered. "He is absolutely perfect." They named him Gabriel, after Grant's father who had died in the war. Gabriel Irving was a healthy baby with dark hair like his father and blue eyes like his mother. Grant proved to be a devoted father, walking the floor with Gabriel at night when he fussed, changing diapers without complaint, and staring at his son with an expression of wonder on his face. "I cannot believe he is ours," Grant said one night as they lay in bed with Gabriel sleeping in a cradle beside them. "I cannot believe how lucky we are." "We are very lucky," Amelia agreed, snuggling close to her husband. "A year ago I was dying in the snow. Now I have a husband I love, a son, and a home. It feels like a miracle." "You are my miracle," Grant said, kissing her softly. "You and Gabriel both. You are the best things that ever happened to me." The years that followed were full of hard work and deep happiness. The ranch grew slowly but steadily, the cattle herd increasing each year. Grant hired a young man named Tom to help with the heavy work, and Amelia took in sewing and mending to bring in a little extra money. Life was not always easy. There were hard winters and dry summers, sick animals and lean times, but they faced everything together. When Gabriel was 3, Amelia gave birth to a daughter they named Anna. 2 years after that, another son, this one named Matthew. The house that had once seemed so large was now full of noise and laughter and the chaos of children. Grant proved to be as wonderful a father as he was a husband, patient and playful and endlessly loving. One evening when Gabriel was 7 and Anna was 4 and Matthew was 2, the family gathered around the dinner table for their evening meal. It was a simple dinner, stew and bread, but the table was full of warmth and chatter. "Papa, tell us the story again," Gabriel said. "About how you found Mama." Grant smiled at Amelia across the table. "You have heard that story 100 times, but I like it," Gabriel insisted. "Please?" "Well," Grant said, settling back in his chair. "It was the winter of 1882, and the biggest blizzard in years was blowing through the mountains. I was trying to get home before the storm got worse when I saw something in the snow. At first I thought it was just a drift, but then I realized it was a person. A woman, frozen and barely alive." "That was Mama," Anna said, her eyes wide. "That was your Mama," Grant confirmed. "And I knew I had to save her, So I picked her up and put her on my horse and brought her home. And when she woke up, I told her she was mine to look after, and she has been mine ever since." "And you have been mine," Amelia said softly. "And I have been yours," Grant agreed. "That is so romantic," Gabriel said, making a face that suggested he was not entirely sure what romantic meant. "It is," Grant said. "Your mama is the bravest, strongest, most wonderful person I know. Finding her was the best thing that ever happened to me." "Did her family ever come looking for her?" Anna asked. "No," Amelia said. "They never did, but that is all right because I have my real family right here." After the children were in bed that night, Grant and Amelia stood on the porch of their house, looking out at the valley that had become their home. It was late spring, and everything was green and growing. In the distance, they could hear the lowing of their cattle and the whinny of horses. "Do you ever think about that day?" Grant asked. "The day I found you." "All the time," Amelia said. "I think about how close I came to dying. I think about how different my life would have been if you had not found me." "I think about it too," Grant said. "I think about how easily I could have missed you if I had been riding a little faster or the snow had been a little thicker. I could have ridden right past you and never known you were there." "But you did not," Amelia said. "You found me. You saved me." "We saved each other," Grant said, pulling her close. "I was so lonely before you. I did not even realize how lonely I was until I had you to compare it to. You brought light into my life, Amelia. You and our children. You made everything worth something. You gave me a home," Amelia said. "A real home, with love and safety and family. You gave me everything I ever wanted." They stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the stars come out over the valley. The night was peaceful, filled with the sounds of crickets and the distant call of an owl. Amelia thought about the girl she had been a year ago, scared and alone and abandoned. That girl felt like a stranger now, someone from another life. "I love you," she said to Grant. "I will love you until the day I die and beyond." "I love you too," Grant said. "You are mine and I am yours, forever and always." The years continued to pass, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. Gabriel grew into a serious, thoughtful boy who loved animals and wanted to be a rancher like his father. Anna was wild and fearless, always climbing trees and exploring the hills around their home. Matthew was gentle and quiet, happiest when he was helping his mother in the garden or listening to his father tell stories. When Gabriel was 12, he asked his parents about his mother's family. Amelia sat him down and told him the truth about her stepfather and the day they had left her in the snow. Gabriel was horrified and angry, and Amelia had to reassure him that it was all in the past, that she had forgiven them as much as she was able. "But they tried to kill you," Gabriel said, his young face fierce. "They do not deserve forgiveness." "Maybe not," Amelia said. "But holding on to anger only hurts me, not them. I choose to focus on what I have, not what I lost. I have your father, and I have you and your brother and sister. That is more than enough." "Do you ever think about trying to find them?" Gabriel asked. "No," Amelia said honestly. "They made their choice and I made mine. My life is here with you and your father. This is my family now." Gabriel seemed to accept that, though he remained protective of his mother, always ready to defend her if anyone said a cross word. The ranch continued to prosper. By the time Gabriel was 15, they had a herd of nearly 50 cattle and a dozen horses. Grant had built a reputation as a fair and honest rancher, and people came from all over the territory to buy horses from him. Amelia had become known for her quilts, which she sold at the general store in Breckenridge. They were not rich, but they were comfortable, with enough money to keep food on the table and clothes on their backs. In 1895, when Amelia was 32 and Grant was 37, They welcomed their fourth child, another daughter they named Elizabeth. Gabriel was 13 and helped his father with the ranch work. Anna was 10 and already showing signs of the beauty she would become. Matthew was 8 and still his mother's shadow. The house was chaotic and loud and full of love. One day that summer, as Amelia was hanging laundry on the line with baby Elizabeth strapped to her chest, a wagon rolled up the drive. Amelia did not recognize it at first, but as it drew closer, her blood ran cold. The man driving the wagon was older and grayer, but she knew that face. It was Richard, her stepfather. Grant was in the barn and did not see the wagon approach. Amelia stood frozen, her heart pounding as Richard climbed down from the wagon. Beside him was a woman Amelia recognized as her mother. Her mother looked old and tired, her face lined with care. "Amelia," her mother said, her voice tentative. "Is that you? What are you doing here?" Amelia asked, her voice cold. She could feel Elizabeth stirring against her chest, sensing her tension. "We have been looking for you," her mother said. "Richard felt terrible about what happened. We thought you had died, but then we heard rumors about a woman matching your description living on a ranch near Breckenridge. We had to come see if it was true." "You left me to die," Amelia said flatly. "You drove me up into the mountains and abandoned me in a blizzard. Why would you come looking for me now?" "I am sorry," her mother said, tears in her eyes. "I am so sorry, Amelia. I should never have let Richard do that. I should have stood up for you. I have regretted it every day since." "What do you want?" Amelia asked. "I want to make amends," her mother said. "I want to be a part of your life again. You are my daughter." "I was your daughter," Amelia said, "but you chose him over me. You chose to let him leave me to die. That is not something I can forgive." Grant chose that moment to emerge from the barn, and when he saw Richard and Amelia's mother, his whole body went tense. He strode over to Amelia and put a protective arm around her shoulders. "Who are these people?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "My stepfather and my mother," Amelia said. "They were just leaving." "We just wanted to see if you were all right," her mother said. "We wanted to apologize." "Your apology is 13 years too late," Grant said coldly. "You tried to murder my wife. If I had not found her that day, she would have frozen to death in the snow because of you." "I know," her mother said, weeping openly now. "I know what we did was unforgivable, but please, Amelia, please let me back into your life. I am your mother." "You stopped being my mother the day you drove away and left me to die," Amelia said. Her voice was steady, but there were tears on her cheeks. "I have a family now. A real family with a husband who loves me and children who need me. I do not have room in my life for people who hurt me." "Amelia, please," her mother begged. "You need to leave," Grant said firmly. "Right now. And do not come back. If I see either of you on my property again, I will have the sheriff involved. Do you understand?" Richard, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke. "We meant no harm," he said. "We just wanted to see how she was doing." "You meant no harm," Grant said incredulously. "You left her to die. That is harm. That is attempted murder. Now get off my land before I lose my temper." The threat in Grant's voice was clear. Richard helped Amelia's mother back into the wagon and they drove away, her mother looking back over her shoulder with a stricken expression. Amelia watched them go, her body trembling. When the wagon was out of sight, Grant turned Amelia to face him. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. "I think so," Amelia said. I cannot believe they came here after all these years." "They have no right to ask for your forgiveness," Grant said fiercely. "What they did was inexcusable. If you want to forgive them, that is your choice, but you do not owe them anything." "Not a single thing." "I do not want to forgive them," Amelia said. "Is that terrible of me?" "No," Grant said. "It is human. They hurt you in the worst possible way. You do not have to forgive that." I just want to forget them, Amelia said. I want to focus on our family, on our life. That is all that matters to me. Then that is what we will do, Grant said, kissing her forehead. We will forget them and live our lives. That evening, after the children were in bed, Amelia and Grant sat together on the porch as they so often did. Amelia was quiet, clearly still processing the events of the day. You think they will come back? She asked finally. I do not know, Grant said honestly, but if they do, we will handle it together. I never thought I would see them again, Amelia said. Part of me thought they were dead. It was easier that way. I am sorry you had to see them, Grant said. I am sorry they brought all that pain back up. It is not your fault, Amelia said. And honestly, seeing them today made me realize something. I am not angry anymore. I was for a long time. But seeing them today, seeing how pathetic and small they looked, I just felt nothing. They do not have power over me anymore. You have come so far, Grant said, his voice full of pride. The woman I found in the snow was broken and scared. The woman sitting beside me now is strong and confident and absolutely unstoppable. I am so proud of you. I could not have done it without you, Amelia said. You are the one who saved me. You are the one who taught me that I was worth saving. We saved each other, Grant reminded her. That is what love does. It saves us. The children grew and the ranch continued to thrive. Gabriel married a sweet girl from Breckenridge when he was 21 and brought her home to the ranch. They built a small house on the property, and Gabriel took over more and more of the day-to-day operations of the ranch. Anna, true to her wild nature, became a schoolteacher and moved to Denver, though she visited home often. Matthew decided he wanted to be a veterinarian and went away to school in California. Elizabeth grew into a beautiful young woman with her father's green eyes and her mother's gentle spirit. Grant and Amelia grew older together, their hair turning gray, their faces becoming lined. But their love never diminished. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year. They still held hands when they walked, still kissed goodbye every morning, still told each other, I love you, a dozen times a day. On a winter evening in 1910, 28 years after Grant had found Amelia in the snow, they sat together on the porch of their house. They were both in their 60s now, Grant's dark hair almost entirely gray, Amelia's blonde hair streaked with silver. But their eyes were still bright, their smiles still easy. You remember the first night I told you that you were mine? Grant asked. Of course I do, Amelia said. It was the night you found me. You said you were going to look after me, that I was yours now. And you have been mine ever since, Grant said. Mine to love, mine to protect, mine to cherish. And you have been mine, Amelia said. My savior, my husband, my best friend. Everything good in my life came from the day you found me. No, Grant said gently. Everything good in my life came from the day you decided to stay. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out over the valley. The house behind them was quiet, most of their children grown and gone, but filled with memories of laughter and love. The ranch stretched out before them, the culmination of decades of hard work and dreams. You have any regrets? Amelia asked. Grant thought about it for a moment. Only one, he said. I wish I could go back in time and save you sooner. I wish I could have spared you even a single moment of pain. But then we would not have this story, Amelia said. We would not have this life. Everything that happened, all the pain and the struggle, it led us here. To this porch, to this valley, to this family. I would not change a single moment of it. Not even the snow, Grant asked. Not even the snow, Amelia confirmed. Because the snow brought me you. Grant pulled her close and kissed her, slow and sweet. When they broke apart, both were smiling. I love you, Amelia Irving, Grant said. I have loved you for 28 years, and I will love you for however many years we have left. I love you too, Grant Irving, Amelia said. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for calling me yours. Thank you for giving me the most beautiful life I could have imagined. They sat together as the night deepened, two people who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and built something extraordinary together. The wind whispered through the pines, carrying with it the scent of snow, and Amelia smiled. She was no longer afraid of the snow. It was just another part of nature, beautiful and dangerous and neutral. It had no power over her anymore. She was home. She was loved. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Years later, when Grant was 72 and Amelia was 69, Grant became ill. It started as a simple cold, but quickly turned into pneumonia. The doctor came from Breckenridge and did what he could, but Grant was growing weaker by the day. The whole family gathered at the ranch house, all 4 children and their spouses and the grandchildren, filling the house with the noise and chaos that Grant had always loved. On a cold February morning, with Amelia sitting beside his bed holding his hand, Grant opened his eyes and smiled at her. "There you are," he said, his voice weak but warm. "My beautiful wife." "I am right here," Amelia said, fighting back tears. "I am not going anywhere." "I need you to promise me something," Grant said. "Anything," Amelia said. "Promise me you will be happy," Grant said. "After I am gone. Promise me you will not spend the rest of your life mourning. I want you to live, Amelia. I want you to laugh and love our family and enjoy every moment you have left." "I promise," Amelia said, the tears spilling over now. "But you are not going anywhere. You are going to get better." "We both know that is not true," Grant said gently. "I have had a wonderful life, Amelia. I have been loved and I have loved. I have raised children and built a home and watched my family grow. I am ready." "I am not ready," Amelia said, her voice breaking. "I am not ready to lose you." "You will never lose me," Grant said. "I will always be with you. Every sunset, every star, every breath of wind, that will be me loving you still." "I love you so much," Amelia sobbed. "I cannot imagine my life without you." "You do not have to imagine it," Grant said. "You are surrounded by love. Our children, our grandchildren, they are all here because of the love we built together. That love does not die, Amelia. It goes on and on." Amelia laid her head on Grant's chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling his hand stroke her hair one last time. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for giving me this beautiful life." "Thank you for staying," Grant whispered back. "Thank you for being mine." Those were the last words he spoke. He died peacefully an hour later with Amelia at his side and his children gathered around him. The whole valley mourned the loss of Grant Irving, a good man who had lived a good life. Amelia grieved deeply, but she kept her promise. She did not spend her remaining years in mourning. Instead, she lived. She spent time with her children and grandchildren, teaching them to quilt and garden and telling them stories about their grandfather. She traveled a little, visiting Anna in Denver and Matthew in California. She took joy in the small things: morning coffee on the porch, the first flowers of spring, the laughter of children on winter nights. When the snow fell soft and silent over the valley, Amelia would stand on the porch and look up at the stars. She could almost feel Grant beside her, his arm around her shoulders, his voice in her ear saying, "You are mine." And she would whisper back, "And you are mine, always and forever." Amelia lived to be 83 years old, surrounded by 3 generations of family who adored her. When she died peacefully in her sleep on a warm spring morning, her last thought was of Grant, waiting for her somewhere beyond the stars. They buried her beside Grant on a hill overlooking the valley they had built together. The headstone read, Grant and Amelia Irving, beloved parents and grandparents, together forever. And in a way, their story never truly ended. It lived on in their children and grandchildren, in the ranch that still bore the Irving name, in the quilts that Amelia had made that were passed down through the generations. It lived on in the story that was told and retold, of a cowboy who found a woman dying in the snow and declared her his, of a love that had been born in the coldest, darkest moment, and had grown into something warm and bright and eternal. Gabriel Irving, now an old man himself, would gather his grandchildren around him and tell them the story of how their great-grandfather had saved their great-grandmother, how a single moment of compassion had led to a love that had shaped an entire family. The children would listen wide-eyed, asking questions about the snow and the cabin and the wedding in Breckenridge, and Gabriel would always end the story the same way. Your great-grandfather used to say that finding your great-grandmother was the best thing that ever happened to him. And your great-grandmother would say that being found was the best thing that ever happened to her. They saved each other, you see. That is what true love does. The Irving Ranch continued to thrive for another 100 years, passed down through the generations, each one adding their own story to the family legacy. But the original story, the one about Grant and Amelia, remained the most beloved. It was a reminder that even in the darkest, coldest moments, there could be hope, there could be love, there could be salvation. And somewhere, beyond the stars and the snow and the mountains, Grant and Amelia Irving were together still, their love as bright and enduring as it had been on that first night when Grant had pulled her from the snow and declared her his. They had lived well, loved deeply, and left behind a legacy that would endure for generations. It was, in the end, exactly the kind of happily ever after they both deserved.